So I got a lot of messages from you guys who want to know how I make those mushroom pictures. So I'm going to make a little tutorial. So let's go through some of the equipment. A tripod is absolutely needed, and what I'm doing is that usually you have a regular tripod which stands like this, but I'm going to turn this one and undersling it so it's upside down and the camera gets lower to the ground, since all the mushrooms are fairly low and we kind of want to shoot them from a frog perspective. So I'm going to remove this rubber, and then I can slide it out and turn it upside down. So you see, now I have turned it upside down so the camera can be hanging down to the ground. Next thing I bring is also a remote trigger. This one is wireless, so I can stand a little bit further ahead from the camera. It makes it easier for me when I have to put light on the mushrooms, but eventually you can also just use a normal trigger with a cable, or even use the countdown trigger in your camera. For the camera itself, I'm using my good old Canon EOS 60D, which is more than 10 years old. And I'm using a Tokina 100mm macro lens. This one is razor sharp, and it's not the fastest lens in the world, but the quality of the image is really superior. And what I like about my good old camera is that it has a tilt and swivel screen like this. It comes in really handy when you are shooting something down on the ground, which you will see very soon. One important thing to notice is that we need to shoot in full manual mode. On most lenses there is a switch, or you can simply click between autofocus or manual mode here. We also need to shoot on manual mode here, need to switch it to manual, and I have the setting of ISO 100, and usually I shoot with an aperture between 2.8 or 3.2 because I want this very lovely bokeh, that lovely blurry depth of field on my pictures. And the shutter speed I will adjust to the light of the scene, but I will always retain it to be the same shutter speed during the whole session of the picture, so I keep the same light. Last but not least, we need a flashlight. So bring a good flashlight with a strong light, high lumen, so you can light through the mushrooms. Now you can see the camera set up on the tripod. If you don't have a tripod and just want to play around a bit, or you want to get further down to the ground, you can also use maybe a beanbag or something similar. I found some cute little mushrooms right here, and we are just going to use them to just show how you have to shoot. So I have been framing the camera to the mushrooms right there in front of me. If there would be some branches or something in front, I would remove it by hand carefully to not disturb the mushrooms too much. As you can see, there is mushroom, a big one right here, and some smaller ones around. My idea is that I want to make a few of them sharp and a few of them blurry, and then I want to add some light to them. I want to start to make the big mushroom in the middle sharp. So I'm using the joypad on my camera so I can move around for the area where I want to focus, like here. And then I have a plus sign here, so I get closer to the mushroom, and I start adjusting on the focus level until I see the mushroom is perfectly sharp. But since I'm shooting with such a low depth of field, you can see that it's not perfectly sharp everywhere. So that means I need to select a section for each picture and make it sharp. So right now I'm shooting sharp here. Maybe for the next picture I will make it sharp on the top. As you see here, it's sharp now here. Okay, adjusting it a bit. I want to start from one corner and then I just move to the left of the head of the mushroom, picture by picture. I use the zoom button one more time. I have a few levels of zoom on this old camera, but this way I could get down to the corner where I'm making my focus right now and to make sure it's totally sharp. One thing which is really important is that you always let the camera stop shaking before you take your picture. So every time I touch the camera, I wait until it's not shaking anymore before I push the button. Otherwise you get a blurry picture. So I just finished shooting all the photos without light. And it's important that you actually just shoot as many as you can, because once you get back home to your computer, you are not able to just get that image you are missing out on. So shoot as many pictures with different focus points as you can. And the same goes for the next section, which is with the light. You also need a lot of shots with light, so you have something to choose from when you have to blend them together in Photoshop later on. And as you can see, I have the flashlight here. And when we look at the photo on the live view, when we look at the live view, we can see the light is moving around. So basically I have to take a lot of photos with different light. So I'm going to light the mushroom, and while I do that I use my wireless trigger to shoot on the camera. In this case the distance is not very big, but sometimes maybe there's 1 or 2 meters between, and then the remote trigger with a cable is not good enough. So I prefer to use the wireless way. The way I light this is kind of like from behind, because I want it to shine through the mushroom layer, and also I want the bean to look like it's glowing. So I will also light from behind like this. It doesn't matter that your flashlight is in the picture when you are shooting with the light, because you are going to blend in only parts of the picture in Photoshop. So your hand and your flashlight will not be a part of it. Now you can see I have different flavors on each picture, different focus points and different lighting on the 3 selected mushrooms I wanted to keep in focus, and the rest is going to be blurry. Alright, back in my warm, comfortable office, and I transferred all my photos to my server and imported them to Lightroom. So it requires you already have basic skills in Lightroom, know how to import your photos and all that. So here we have all the 51 photos which I was shooting earlier on. So we will go to the development part of Lightroom, and I already enhanced it slightly. The original photo is very dark because I was shooting it very dark and underexposed on purpose. So I'm going to enhance it a bit, probably around 2, and adding a little bit of contrast, maybe a little bit of clarity as well. I would also add a little bit of sharpening and enable profile correction. And that's about it. Sometimes I would also play a little bit around with the toning of the colors You can see on the mushroom here, if you're looking here, you can see that the mushroom is changing the color. So I could pop it a little bit, adding a little bit more red to it. I have to copy this setting to all the other pictures. I just need to move. Actually, I'll just make sure I only add the things I was changing. Sharpening, no graduate filters, lens correction, yeah, and color. Copy. And then I'm going to select all the pictures, Control A, and development settings, paste settings, and then all the pictures have the same settings. Okay, so I will select all my images, right click on any one of them and edit and open as layers in Photoshop. And that will open Photoshop and import all the 51 images as separate layers in Photoshop. And since all the files are really big files, it's going to take quite a while. All right, we got all layers loaded now. What we want to start doing is that we will select all the layers. So we click on the first one in the top and scroll down, hold down Shift and click the left mouse button, so we have all of them selected now. Then we go to Edit and we choose Auto Align Layers. And we just try and set it to auto, usually that works fine. And click OK. And what this will do is it will try to align all the layers so they are in the same position. Because even though we are using a tripod and trying to keep it as steady as possible when shooting, it's impossible to actually keep it in the same position when you are on a very soft, spongy moss carpet in the forest. It's so soft and it will actually be a little bit unstable. So the mushroom in one image is maybe like here, and on the second image it's maybe a little bit above or a little bit to the left, because you can't hold it totally steady when you are moving around. Okay, it finished. And what you can see is that the camera moved. If you look down here, you can see that there is kind of like a line, and you can see there's a thin line here and a thin line above, and also on the left side there is this tiny little line, and it just shows that the auto aligning really worked and that there is quite a gap between the images. So I will start to unhide all the layers. So I have to click the first layer and right click here and select Show Hide All Layers. And then now you see all the icons, they disappear. Now I'm removing this, and that means all the layers has been turned off. And I'm doing this just to group the photos at first. So you can see this one has a light on it. We need to go to the beginning, and then we have here is only mushroom, no light. Also the light is coming down here, so from this image to this image we want to group it. So I mark the layers I want to group, I right click, and then I make group from layers, and we just call it focus, and enter. And then all these layers are of course with the light on. So I select them and we just call them light. So now you see it's a little bit more tidy. I have all my layers in two groups here. But here we have all the mushrooms which has different kinds of sharpness. So for example, you can see on this layer, this one is sharp. If I turn on the next layer, then this one is sharp. I will turn on the first layer where this mushroom right here is in focus. And it's still in focus, so it's good. Then I will add the next layer. And on the next layer, we see this little friend is sharp. And also this tiny little one here. What we will do now is we will go here and add a layer mask. And you can see there is a small mask popping up here. I want to invert it, so I will press Ctrl and I. And now you actually see the layer below. So we need to select the brush tool. And the magic thing is when you are painting with white on this black mask, you will reveal the layer we are standing on. So you can see if I start painting here, the mushroom, which are sharp, is coming back to life. But of course I need to be a little bit careful, because if I want to keep things a little bit blurry around here, I can't make it too much. So it depends how I want the final image. If we try to zoom out, it might look like we can't make it too sharp around here. But it's not a problem. If I switch the colors out here and turn it to black and I paint again, I'm putting back the mask. So you can see it's getting blurry again. So this way I can combine it and paint in the image how I want it. Now you see it's kind of popping out down here. And it's not too sharp, but it's still sharp on the top, and a part of it is sharp. But if I make the size a bit smaller, I'm right clicking when I'm having the brush tool, and then I can select the size. You can see here, and I can just paint over more precisely what I want sharp. So we will create a layer, Ctrl I, and make the red one stand out first. So now we have the red one standing out very beautiful. Okay, so now I have all the mushrooms sharp in my image. So what I'm going to do is I'm shift clicking all my images here, and then I will merge layers. So now all my layers are gone into one image. And I'm going to take my light group and move it on the top. Now we need to redo the same procedure, but adding light. Again, we click to add layer mask, we press Ctrl I, and then we zoom in a bit, make it a bit smaller, opacity 45 is fine, and we start to paint in the light. You see, now it's starting to glow. You can see here we have different kind of light again on the bean of it, and also of the stem, and then also on the side here. So adding a layer mask, Ctrl I, I think we really need to turn the opacity down to be very gentle. As you can see, there's a lot of playing around to just get it the way you want. But basically this is how it's done. Okay, I think now I have been playing around with all my layers and I've been revealing the light in all the small little mushrooms and the big one, and I think it looks okay for me. So what I'll do now, I will go to layer and I will just change it to flatten image, and that means all my layers are gone. So if you want to play around with it again or save it with all the layers, you should save a file separately now to work with later. But have in mind it will be really huge file because you have a lot of raw images stored. But I will take the risk and merge it. So we'll just crop away the ugly white borders. I usually dots and burn, so lighten and darken parts of the image a bit here. Choose to highlight. You see, I'm making it shine a little bit more by just dodging and burning. So I want the edges to glow a bit more. You can do this in Lightroom too, but since you have the original image right here in Photoshop, I think and feel myself personally that it just works better here. So I'm generally just lighting it up and, trying to make it look like it's a little lamp. So it will cast some light off beneath it, just like a regular lamp would do. So here we have it. It's time to take it to Lightroom. So I'm just going to close it and save changes, yes. And then it will automatically make a TIFF file and import it back into Lightroom, where it will have the file here. Just play around with different framings. So for example, okay, I want to do one with this framing, maybe something like this, I guess could be nice. But yeah, that's about it. Thank you for watching this tutorial. I know it was rather long, but I hope I didn't miss out too much. If you have any questions, just leave a comment below. Take care and see you next time.